What up, though, everybody, and welcome to Lions Nation Unite. My name is Spencer Raxter of Woodward Sports. I appreciate you tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and follow Lions Nation Unite on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Now, while you're here, before you go, make sure you go to lionsnationunite.com to get all of the best merch possible. Make sure you go there. They're doing a lot of different stuff. You got a lot of different sales on different things, new products popping up constantly. So make sure you tap in with lionsnationunite.com. Now, Lions Nation Unite is a platform created by Herman, the Detroit Lions legendary wide receiver, to bring together Lions content creators of all different walks of life to bring you the best coverage imaginable for the Detroit Lions. Now, obviously, the Detroit Lions just had one of their preseason games, that went pretty well. You had some guys making some nice plays. Hendon Hooker continues to struggle. Isaac Tesla and Jackson Meeks are out there making good plays, but something happened in this game that was kind of the one thing you did not want to see as a result of preseason play, that being injuries. Now, Ahmed Hassanein, he was a sixth-round pick out of Boise State, an edge rusher who had a lot of potential, who had pretty good stats in college and really brought a different energy to Dan Campbell's practice with the Detroit Lions. This is a guy who's been all over the place. He's been making a name for himself at practice by staying in the hip pocket of guys like Penei Sewell and Aiden Hutchinson to try to learn from them, to try to get better, and to try to achieve what he wants to be, which is a star player in the National Football League. Obviously, he had a far way to go from where he was drafted, but he was showing some good signs. He was showing signs that he might be able to get into the rotation throughout the year, but unfortunately, Ahmed Hassanein was injured in the Lions preseason game, and it doesn't sound too great. Now, here is what Dan Campbell had to say about the Detroit Lions young edge rusher getting injured.
For a while. He's got a pec. And then we're going to start Khalil Dorsey. He's going to start going. We'll start today, individual, group, some of that stuff. And, hopefully by the end of the week, maybe we can get him worked in a few things. I don't know if he'll play or not, but this is a step in the right direction, getting him back.
So there you have it. He just touched on it briefly. He said that he's got a pec. He's going to be down for a while. And he went on to say that he doesn't know if it's season ending or not. Now, the way that Dan Campbell has talked about it, the way that you're hearing other people talk about it, again, this is complete speculation on my part, and I have no idea whatsoever, but it sounds like he tore his pec. And we know that that can be a long, grueling injury when you look at a guy like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for the Detroit Lions, who got one of those injuries early on into the season. He was held out until the Detroit Lions made the playoffs. Now, Ahmed Hassanein, it's tough because obviously it'll be good to get a body back for the playoffs. Obviously, that defensive line needs as many guys as they can on that rotation, but you were really hoping that if he was going to be getting meaningful snaps in the playoffs, that means he would have had a lot of reps under his belt in the regular season, a lot of experience in the National Football season, or in the National Football League in the regular season, and that's what it is now. Ahmed Hassanein, I think if you were being generous, you'd hope that he would have got 3 sacks this year. I think anywhere from the 1.5 to 2.5 range was where a majority of people saw him ending up, forbidding he goes out there and is just absolutely lights out. This is a guy who he's still a project. He's only been playing football for a short period of time, and he's still truly learning the nuance and the depth of the position that he plays. Now, his impact on the field for the Detroit Lions, I'll say this year, would have been marginal. And I think you can replace the true production that you would have gotten out of Ahmed Hassanein with some guys that are already on the roster. When you look at Agood and Ukwu and Pat O'Connor and Al-Quadin Muhammad, all guys that have shown that they're more than capable of stepping up, stepping in, and have snaps in the National Football League under their belt. It's not the production or it's not the thing that's going to hurt the Lions. When you see Ahmed Hassanein go out, you really just feel for the kid and his development. Now, obviously, like I said, this this is a kid that they were taking a leap in. He's still very raw as a prospect. He shows a lot of good talents. He shows a lot of good motivational things and excitement for what he wants to do in the league, but he still had a lot to learn about football as a whole, let alone adjusting to the National Football League, the level of athlete and the speed that they all play at. So really what the Detroit Lions are missing on this one is a year of development out of Ahmed Hassanein. You were hoping that he could go out there, he could get some snaps, he could make some plays, he could learn how to play in the National Football League in his first year and really hopefully be put into that rotation throughout the season as it goes on. Now, like I said, this is not a guy that was going to be a focal point of the Detroit Lions defense or even one of their biggest backups on that defensive line, but his attitude and his tenacity and his overall work ethic were giving him the looks that would have helped him develop in the National Football League. We're kind of forcing the hand of the Detroit Lions coaching staff to put him out there, and unfortunately, because of this injury, which again, I don't know 100%, but it sounds like he tore his pec, he is going to miss on a lot of valuable time and a lot of valuable snaps that, although it might not have made or broken the Detroit Lions season, it would have helped him develop as a player. It would have helped him develop as a pass rusher. And on a defensive line that's going to be short, obviously Levi Onwuzurike for the year, Josh Pascal starting the season off injured, and now Ahmed Hassanein out for a prolonged period of time. This is a defense that could really use all of the rotational pieces on that defensive line that they can get. So, no, this isn't going to change the Detroit Lions' hopes in winning a Super Bowl. No, this isn't going to change where the Detroit Lions fall in the hierarchy of the NFC, but it sucks to see a young guy who is giving you good looks at practice and giving you a lot of hope that he could potentially be a rotational piece at the very least in this defense is losing out at a very, very prime opportunity to learn and develop in the National Football League. Now, again, you got pieces that can replace his productivity, but even before this injury came out, Lions fans, myself included, were clamoring for the Detroit Lions to do something else on that defensive line, to bring in another piece on that defensive line. We see a guy that they were rumored to having conversations with in Matthew Judon, signed to the Miami Dolphins to a 1-year up to $6 million deal. That would have been something nice. I would have liked to see the Detroit Lions do. Obviously, Zadarius Smith is still out there. You've heard Brad Holmes talk about the contract talks with him, about how he wants him here. You hear Zadarius replicate those same feelings towards the Detroit Lions. So maybe that's a deal that's going to get done. Jadeveon Clowney is another guy that's still out there, still on the market, and still waiting for a team to call him. But there's somebody else in the market, and that's a Trey Hendrickson. Now, the Bengals have come out and say the negotiations have all but come to a close with Trey Hendrickson, and they're actively shopping him to other teams in the National Football League. They said that their asking price, which I think is a tad bit high for Trey Hendrickson, is a first-round pick and a young defensive player. Now, Kay Adams was in Detroit Lions camp today. She sat down with Brad Holmes, and she asked him the question about, is he going to bring another pass rusher here to Detroit? And here's what Brad Holmes had to say.
You have been known sort of to build your team through the draft.
Yeah.
But you come from that FM picks,
Yeah,
Sneedy vibe.
absolutely.
There is a window here.
Yep.
Any thoughts on adding?
Yeah, I mean, we're always staying open-minded, and again, we're always going to do the best thing for the organization. But that was me and Dan's vision and plan from the get-go, is build through the draft. Like you said, these guys
Yeah.
here that are coming up next. But and that's why we've been able to stay consistent, is building through the draft. But no, we're not scared. Like, I learned a lot from Leslie and the
No, I'm just wondering if you're like clearly waiting for your moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a time to strike, and if it comes, we have never. I don't think we've shown a time where we've been scared to really do something or make a move. But it's always going to be just calculated, and there's got to be a little bit of strategy behind it.
Back-to-back 17-plus sack seasons interesting to you, Brad?
Well, I mean, sacks are good.
An
obviously.
edge potentially.
Yeah.
the world wants to know.
Sacks are good.
Sacks are good.
We have a pretty good one now.
There we go. We love to hear it.
I mean, Brad Holmes just has to be absolutely exhausted of being asked about edge rushers at this point in his tenure with the Detroit Lions. But you hear him kind of say, it's pretty much him saying, like, shut up. Like he knows. He's been in talks. We've heard that he called on Daniil Hunter. We've heard that he called on Myles Garrett and that he called on Max Crosby. Now, Trey Hendrickson, when it was originally put out there that he was unhappy with his situation in Cincinnati and he was looking to move on somewhere, me and Easy on the heavyweights on Woodward Sports 5 to 7 Monday through Friday, shout out. We didn't even entertain this because Trey Hendrickson is not playing for the Bengals for one reason. Because he wants a long-term contract. Trey Hendrickson is not reporting to Cincinnati for camp for one reason, because he wants financial stability, and he is not going to just magically play for the Detroit Lions if they trade for him without that contract in tow. And this is a guy who, like Kay Adams said there, has had 17 and a half sacks in back-to-back seasons, and he is deserving, commanding, and going to receive an intense payday from somebody in the National Football League, but it's not going to be the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are not going to pay Trey Hendrickson $50 million a year when they already have Aiden Hutchinson coming up on a deal that will be just as much, if not more, than what Trey Hendrickson is asking for. Trading for him is one thing, and getting rid of guys like Brian Branch that I even heard about today, which is absolutely laughable, would be different if you didn't already have to sign the guy to an intense deal. He's not going to play football next season if he's not one of the highest paid defensive players in the National Football League, and the Detroit Lions are not in the financial space that they can just throw a contract like that at a guy with Aiden Hutchinson, Jameson Williams, Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, and more coming down the pipe to ready to get paydays themselves. It's not happening. Trey Hendrickson is not happening. And like I said, Ahmed Hassanein being down for what sounds like a majority of the season with a pec injury does not really hurt the Detroit Lions as an entire scheme. It hurts Ahmed Hassanein and his development. I feel for the kid. I really wanted to see him get some snaps and hopefully eventually crack his way into that rotation, but what you would have gotten out of Ahmed Hassanein this year in terms of production, I believe you can replace with people on the roster when you look at Agoud, Ukwu, and Al-Quadin Muhammad. But before Ahmed was even injured, I wanted the Detroit Lions to re-sign a guy named Zadarius Smith. And I think that now that is even more amplified. They're not trading for Trey Hendrickson. They're not signing Trey Hendrickson. They need to add a piece to help their rotation. Zadarius Smith or Jadeveon Clowney, you're not asking them to come in here and be this all-star, to be this Pro Bowler. You already got that in your blue chip Aiden Hutchinson. You just need a guy that can be a body, that can rush the passer, and can give you some rotational snaps when guys need breathers. I believe Zadarius Smith is a no-brainer. I said it before the Ahmed injury, and I'll say it after the Ahmed injury. Now, with two guys that you thought were going to be in your rotation down for a majority of the season, there is no excuse for the Detroit Lions not to sign Zadarius Smith. You need to bring him back. You need to put him on this defensive line. Ahmed Hassanein may or may not have broken your season. I don't think that Ahmed Hassanein was going to be the reason that you won the Super Bowl or not, but he still was trying to get into that rotation. He was still looking to be a piece to give you some snaps. And like I said, you could probably replace the production he would have given you with Ukwu, Al-Quadin Muhammad, or Agoud. But I still wanted you to bring back Zadarius Smith before that happened. So I definitely want you to do it now. Ahmed Hassanein probably going to miss the majority of the season because of a pectoral injury, but that does not mean the Detroit Lions need to sign and trade for Trey Hendrickson. Just bring back Zadarius Smith, have the guys you got, and go after it. With a healthy Aiden Hutchinson, you will still have one of the best defensive lines in the National Football League. And then mid-season, when you get guys like Josh Pascal and Aleem McNeil back, you'll be stronger than ever. It sucks that Ahmed Hassanein injured himself, and it sucks that he is going to miss out on a year of development in the NFL, which he really needed. But this does not change the fact that the Detroit Lions are a Super Bowl contender. And this should not change the fact that they need to re-sign Zadarius Smith. Appreciate you guys tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. My name is Spencer Raxter of Woodward Sports. Subscribe to Lions Nation Unite. Go give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Again, I am Spencer Raxter of Woodward Sports, and we'll see you guys next time